Welcome to the Marketing Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Barker. In this episode, I'm talking to Deirdre Breakenridge about her book writing process. I want to know more about her consulting business and her passion projects. In this episode, we'll take a closer look at her take on modern communication and PR. So obviously your background is a writer, right? I mean, that's what the premise of everything that you do has this common core of being a writer. So How is content a major piece of that? Like, how do you integrate, because not everybody's writers, right? And don't have the expertise that you have. So how is it with content being kind of the core of that? How do you do that with your consulting business with your clients?
So I think it's understanding your thought leadership. So my clients start to learn their pillars of thought leadership, right? Pillars of content. And once you understand your areas of expertise, it's really easy to figure out what media you're going to explore, right? To put your content out. And it's all based on your audience. It's always what they want. And basically what I'm finding is that we're hungry for content. I mean, my goodness, there's the long tail of publishing now. So there was just a study that came out by Unclusive. I don't know if you saw it. It was the media report. But basically it says that there are so many more third tier publishers that it's good in a way that everybody can produce content. And it's bad in a way because there's so much out there that, attention spans and everything is so saturated. But I think it's really important just to understand, well, first you have to have a compelling story that you want to share, but it really becomes, how does somebody want to experience what you have to offer? And how are you going to meet their passion? I call it passion potential, because basically whatever it is you have to share has to meet their need and want for you to share it. So it's all different. It really depends. Some of my clients are podcasters. Some are more the digital correspondent type. Some are writers like me. And it's always tapping into your, what you do best as well, so that you're not so bogged down. It doesn't seem like such a chore as well.
And I think you hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, for me, it's like, and that's what we kind of look at is like, what do you enjoy doing, right? And what are you good at, right? And it's like really building something around that, because you can always find, if you're not the best writer, I mean, if you can speak and put something into a tape and tell people what the premise of it is, or, we do video, a lot of stuff like we use Loom to be able to do a video and explain things. You don't have to be the best writer in the world, right? You don't have to, with video, it's a little difficult to clone yourself and have somebody else do it. So you probably have to do that work. And if you hate being in front of a video, then maybe that's not for you. But I think it's important one of the things is figuring out obviously what you're good at, but then also knowing that you don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be on every platform. You don't have to do every medium. Figure out what you enjoy doing and what kind of content you think your audience is going to like. And as long as that resonates with what you're creating, then finding that connection, right? And I think that's always the hard part, because, we get this, and I think everybody does, is like, there's always a new platform. There's always a new this. There's always a new that, right? Gosh. And there's always something to distract you from it. But I think it's really focusing, and for me to say focus is kind of ironic, but to focus on exactly, like, once again, what your message is, how you want to put that out, and what you enjoy doing. Because I think people want to, I got to do video, but I hate video. And I think there's a difference between hating video and then also getting it to a point where you just haven't done it a lot, so you're not good at it, right? Not where you're like have anxiety and you're like have to take medicine or something to be able to get on video, right? That's a whole different level.
Yeah, that's the point. You don't want to do
that. Yeah, that doesn't make sense, because drugs are expensive from what I understand, but from what I've heard. So I think that's the key, is like, once again, what do you like to do and what are you good at doing? And then you can build out the other pillars, because there's other people that enjoy whatever that is that you don't enjoy, like accounting or answering emails or something like that. So we talk about that, of like, there's figuring out what you're good at, what you want to do, how you spend your day. And once again, do you enjoy what you do?
But also you hit on something really important when you were saying, sometimes if you haven't done video in a long time, you're a little reticent to do it and you're nervous, but you're still excited. Stepping out of your comfort zone versus I'm going to have a full-blown panic attack because I really this is not for me. So I think people have to embrace stepping out of their comfort zone when it's right to do for them. And I think that's one thing that I've always tried to do for my brand, where I started as, if you take my writing and my storytelling, book author to blogger to LinkedIn Learning video instructor. I was a lynda.com instructor, and then LinkedIn acquired Lynda. I'm an audio podcaster, and we're actually launching the first video version. So that's coming out. Yeah. But each time I kind of felt like, oh, I'm excited, but oh, this feels a little funny. But that's okay. You still have to get used to stepping out of your comfort zone. That's important too today.
And absolutely. And I think that's the thing is that, yours or my first speaking event, my first podcast, my first video thing, you don't jump into it and sound great. Like I'll give you an example. And I brought this up in past podcasts. I have my first blog post that I wrote on my website, and I show it to my students at UCLA, and they always look at it, they go, God, that's terrible. And I go, that's my point of showing it to you, is that it's terrible, right? It's like, but I started, right? So the thing is, like with you, and it's important to go and do that and step out of your comfort zone. And my writing skills aren't absolutely phenomenal. I'm not a writer by trade, but this is where I started, right? And now I have people on my team that help me with writing, obviously with, writing content. So this is the thing is like, you just have to get it started. And the video thing and the speaking thing being a great example of that. People would like, it's like death in speaking, right? That's like the thing. Yeah. A lot of the time speaking is more scary than death, because speaking, you have to think about what you did after death. It just happens. And it's like, okay, it's happening. So it's the crazy part about it for me is, once again, I think you touched on it, is like, are we so uncomfortable we just can't do it? Because I get anxiety before I speak, and I haven't told a lot of people that. But then when I get up on stage, other than talking,
you work through it.
Yeah, you work through it, right? It's like I kind of forget about all that. And now this was in the beginning. Now it's kind of second nature to get up and speak. But in the beginning, it was absolutely terrifying. Like I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. But I knew myself that I was like, I have to conquer this. Like I have to go through this. It sucks, and I don't love it by any means. But there'll get to a point where I'll just jump up on stage. I grab a microphone, and then it's all second nature. And that's where I'm at now. But it takes a while to get there. And you have to, once again, you have to say, am I willing to really go through the hard times? Because it's not easy. It just won't be. Right?
Yeah, I have a perfect example. So I had done Facebook Lives for my clients where I would be instructing them how to do a Facebook Live. But I will never forget, I was doing some content marketing for NASDAQ. NASDAQ had acquired MarketWired. It was when they made the acquisition of MarketWire's Newswire and digital media services. So NASDAQ had this business unit that was also Newswire and digital media services. I used to do videos for them. I was very comfortable being on video, going to trade shows, interviewing influencers there and speakers. And one day, so we were in Toronto at the World PR Forum, and I will never forget this. The call comes in from headquarters, and it goes into the marketing director who was at the show with me. And they said, would Deirdre do Facebook Live video with the influencers? And then at the time, the marketing director was, oh, yeah, I'm sure she would do that. That's a great idea. And then they asked me, let's just test it on our Facebook feed. We want you to go and talk for 10 minutes raw. Just go on the NASDAQ Facebook page, do a live video and talk. And I was nervous because it was NASDAQ. Yeah. I mean, the NASDAQ, right?
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, I'm going to be kicking myself if I say no. Yeah. I'm nervous, but I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. And I did. And just to the point of you showing your students that first video, I like to show this first video of me doing my Facebook Live for NASDAQ with like their step and repeat banner behind me. It was so bad. It was like my leg was moving. The angle was wrong. I could just pick it apart. But guess what? I did it. We did more of it. That if I had said no, I never would have ended up at Market Site in Times Square doing a live show in the same studio as Squawk Box that was broadcast out, where I got to be their digital correspondent and host of a show that just strictly interviewed influencers.
I mean, you just never know where it's going to take you. And I think that's what's, for me, that's what's exciting, like the speaking side of things and workshops for me. In the beginning, it was uncomfortable, but for me now, I knew that once I got through that there was going to be just great stuff that was going to happen, right? But it's like anything else. It's that part sucks, right? Going from here to there, because you're like this and that, but so many good things can happen once you break outside of that, assuming once again that you're not so, have to heavily medicate yourself to do something. But even then, I would have, I would have, this is This was years ago. I was going on and I was just a little nervous, little speaking event, a keynote that I was doing in Santa Barbara. And the funny part was the guy that was there and he goes, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good. And that's always my answer. Right. But I'm like, sweating and not really, but it's like, deep down inside my palms are all sweaty. And he's like, do you want a shot of tequila? And I was like, what? And he goes, do you want a shot of tequila? And I'm like, I'm Irish. It doesn't mean I like drink before my keynotes. But he goes, the only reason I'm asking, I don't think he had a bottle of tequila. His point was like he had other people, speakers that would, for a long time, they would drink tequila. I'm not recommending drinking tequila before you go on.
Right.
But
wow.
Take care of the anxiety for them. And I always thought that was interesting. Now, I never have decided to drink before I go on stage because I don't think I need to drink before I go on stage. Now, after I go on stage, I'm with the group, right? So, but I just thought that was interesting, like to get rid of the like anxiety of it. He's like, I recommend tequila. And I was like, well, there we go. I mean, who knew? So guys, let me know if you use tequila before you do your keynote and how that turns out, or if you even remember it. And if you do, then that's awesome. Let us know how that goes. So,
how funny.
When we talk about content, so tell me, what are you really passionate about? Like if somebody said, like if they put, your name plus a hashtag, like what would that hashtag be in regards to what are you passionate about content wise? Like what would be like right now you're like, hey Shane, this to me is like really where I know obviously you have your podcast, right? Women Worldwide. So I would say that's probably what you're passionate about, but like, tell us, what are you passionate about right now when it comes to content marketing?
So, well, I mean, right now I am working on a project that is all about millennials on social media.
I heard about this.
So I'm building, it comes out of something sad, but it's meant to be empowering and to move forward to help. So I think you know this, Shane. We lost our daughter, my stepdaughter, Noelle, in September. Mm-hmm. And it was tragic. And she was a millennial, absolutely beautiful, accomplished. And, you look at people like Noelle on social media, mm-hmm. and it's a highlight reel. And it's really interesting because I'm finding out that millennials especially are feeling that their performance is tied to their value, that depression, anxiety, the rates are spiking, suicide, which is really scary, is up 30% since the year 2000. It's the second leading cause of death of Americans between the ages of 10 and 34. God, so after what happened with Noelle, I really I'm talking to millennials, asking specific questions about how they're feeling about social media and how leaders are coming across to them in their content, in their communication. And what I'm finding is that the model I'm developing is kind of the gap between what the millennials really want and need and prefer in their content and communication and what's actually coming across from business leaders and professionals. And FEEL stands for face your fears, engage with empathy, use ethics and good judgment, and unleash the love. So that's where I am in the content space with my own content, with people I work with, to always make sure you feel first before you communicate. That's what I'm super passionate about.
I love that. That is so awesome. And I appreciate the bringing up the thing with Noelle. I knew that was, and we had talked a little bit on Twitter and through direct message about that. I knew that was the hard thing for you guys. And it's interesting how you're turning it into something that I think could have a big impact. And so I think that's awesome.
I hope so.
It will. It absolutely will. And you obviously, and I've told you this before, but you let me know whatever you need from my side to help get the word out, not only through the podcast, but through anything. Because I think I'm a big fan of like passion projects, and especially if it can make an impact. I think social media, and I think it's a difficult time for millennials, right? I think it really is. There's this need to perform and this need to be out there, and you're socially accepted by how many likes and comments, and if I'm not getting this and content. I mean, I work with influencers a lot. Like my class at UCLA is literally personal branding, how to be an influencer, right? And so it is this kind of this need to feel accepted, or to monetize it and stuff like that. But I do think the unfortunate part is that if you're not, if you want to be an influencer, in theory, if you're not performing, then they're going to go find somebody else, right? If you're not out there putting this forward, and some people are honest about what they put out, and some people it's this facade of this is, oh, my life's great, I have a pink dog and I eat caviar and I'm on a jet every day, and it's like, okay, maybe not every day, but so it's like, how do you getting through that? I think it's the communication, and there's just so many other avenues to communicate, and it's once again, it's difficult. You know, I mean, high school, high, and even college, and even after that, it's difficult times. And it is hard. There's a lot of, I don't know, there's just a lot of moving pieces to it. I think it's awesome that you're looking into that as, you know, kind of like trying to figure out, interviewing people and saying, hey, what are the potential issues here? And especially when we're dealing with, you know, higher suicide rates and stuff like that. I mean, you know, social media has some upsides and some good things. And, you know, I think it's important to address both sides of it, right? Especially if it's affecting our youth and the people that.
Absolutely.
It's important.
You know, what's coming up a lot in my research is that millennials are saying that the way people are communicating, everything is don't trust anything. You can't trust anything. Wow. It's disingenuous. It's all planned communication, which in most cases, when they talk about their business leaders or brands that they like, the way they're being communicated to, it is planned. And that you always have to verify and then trust. You know, I grew up a long time ago. It was you could trust first.
Yeah.
And then if you had to verify. But now you just don't, there is no trust. And I think what I see is much more on the EQ side of things, this emotional intelligence, which is really important anyway, because Shane, in an age of automation and artificial intelligence, the machine can't take away things like caring and kindness and intuition and the ability to build a genuine relationship. That's all EQ. And millennials are very much EQ. And on the other side, sometimes the communication, because I've analyzed it on social media. I've used a social media intelligence software platform to look at how leaders, emotion, and communication, what's being valued. And it's really interesting because the IQ words like strength and professional and powerful and experience, they're all big words when you do text analytics, but things like feel and real and trust and compassion are all little words that are hardly ever talked about.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I can't wait to hear more about like what you got going on there. Cause I think you're touching on something that I don't think a lot of people realize is going on, right? Because I don't think it's talked about a lot, right? There's, like I said, the other side of social media and how it can affect, once again, can be great. Then there's the other side, it doesn't affect everybody great, right? And so there's people that it can really cause issues. And so I think that's interesting. Once again, as I've told you before, you let me know when you come out with that. I would love to support you in any way possible. Put it through my channels and stuff. Yeah, I just think it's important. I think it's important to look at both sides of that. And I'm excited to see your research. I know how you do research, so I'm excited to see how that thing comes out.
There'll be another book.
I've seen it. I can only imagine. Hey, I'll buy it. I'm ready. I'm ready for number 7.
Thank you.
My goal is to come out with my book before you come out with your 15th book. I'm just small goals.
Oh, you will.
I know. I'm going to go put that on my whiteboard.
Put it out there in the universe, Shane. You'll do it.
Don't you worry, folks. I'm going to get this thing. This thing's going to be, she's only going to do 8 books in the time that I do 1. That's not a problem. Nothing here to judge. We'll be good.
Now that we got that clear, let's wrap up this podcast segment. It's been an insightful conversation on modern communication. We're going to switch gears in the next episode and cover more ground on content and influencer marketing. Stay tuned.